edge on
this
abortion?
moment, the laws are set, and I think we have to leave it that way.
Do you think it's murder, abortion?
I have my opinions on it, but I'd rather not comment on it.
You said you're very pro-life. Pro-life view is that it's abortion.
Yeah, I'm
abortion is murder.
No, but I mean, I do have my opinions on it. I just don't think it's an appropriate forum.
But you don't disagree with that proposition, that it's murder?
What proposition?
That abortion is murder.
No, I don't disagree with it.
Donald Trump sitting with our John Dickerson on Face the Nation. I'm now joined by our senior political editor, Steve Chaggaris, and Washington Post reporter Ed O'Keefe. Gentlemen, we appreciate the time today. Steve, I want to start with you, and I'm going to ask you to grab the devil's advocate cap here. A loss in Wisconsin, how much does it really matter to Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, if you're looking at the delegate math, it's not a huge deal. It's more of a, it slows him down a little bit. I think it's going to make it that much harder for him to clinch before June 7th, which is the last day of the primaries. I think we're looking at a definitive, at the earliest, he'll be able to clinch on that last day. But it's not really about the delegates here for Trump. I think there's a couple of things. First of all, it really gives Cruz a boost. Look at what happens after Wisconsin. There are 2 weeks of really nothing. The first primaries after Wisconsin are in New York on the 19th and then in the Northeast on the 26th, where Trump is expected to do well. But there's going to be 2 weeks of chatter and of buzz that's not going to be very positive for Trump and will be likely very positive for Cruz. So how does Trump overcome that? I think a loss by Cruz would really be more devastating to Cruz than a loss to Trump would have been. Because if Cruz loses, then it's 2 weeks of really bad press for Cruz, plus another 2 weeks after that with New York and those Northeast primaries, and he really has about a month before he could reset in May. And
it would also suggest that the current numbers we're seeing are way, way off. To Steve's point, however, this could be the last time that Ted Cruz could theoretically crow about something. What impact would it have for his campaign, which is still, again, decidedly behind in the delegate count?
Well, Josh, the timing's quite good, actually, if he wins in Wisconsin, because now, state by state, the state Republican parties are starting to hold their conventions, and in some cases, they've still got slots to fill on their delegate slates. And the Cruz campaign over the course of the last few weeks has done quite a masterful job of siphoning away some of these delegates from Donald Trump, despite the fact that Trump may have actually won the states in which these delegates are being handed out. If this continues, if he wins tomorrow night, he's got wind at his back to take to these delegates in places like Colorado this weekend, in Arizona as they start doling them out by congressional district, to sort of say, look, if you're concerned about Trump, if you don't like him, I'm the only other guy. I just won a big race in a Midwestern, potentially swing state. But Steve's right. Going into the Northeast, he's going to struggle, because a Texas senator with a conservative record like that is simply not going to appeal to a lot of voters out there. Trump may not either, but Cruz certainly isn't trying as hard and probably won't fare as well in New York and Pennsylvania and Connecticut, Rhode Island, etc.
Steve, the Cruz campaign's working of those delegates, just one of the things that Trump is said to have discussed with RNC Chairman Reince Priebus last week. Another of the topics discussed, this idea of party loyalty. Obviously, the pledges have been in the crosshairs for the last week plus. Priebus referred to Trump's threat to run an independent campaign as counterproductive. So if Trump falls short of 1237, does not secure the nomination, would a third party run for him be something that's even viable at this point?
Not really. I mean, if he wants to do that, he's got to do that now. I mean, the deadlines are already starting. So if he wants to run as an independent, he has to get signatures in most of the 50 states in order to get himself on ballots. It's a very expensive proposition. It's a very time-consuming proposition, and the deadlines begin in a month. Texas is May 9th. So there's one problem, is ballot access. If he decided to run as a third party, there are really only two third parties that have enough ballot access to potentially win the presidency. One of them is the Green Party, which I can't think of an earthly scenario in which the Green Party would ever nominate Trump. And the other is the Libertarian Party, who's already said, first of all, they don't want outsiders coming in and hijacking the party. But secondly, they nominate their candidate at the end of May, which is before Trump would likely make a decision like this. So if he waits until either June 7th or at the convention, if he loses potentially the nomination at the convention, it's way too late for him to run as a third party or independent at that point.
And meanwhile, it's interesting, John Kasich, a name that we don't hear much about, questions being asked of you, certainly in responses. But here now comes Ted Cruz releasing a shot at the Ohio governor. Trump has called on Kasich to drop out of this race. Why this focus now on Kasich in the context?
Because in state after state that he hasn't won, and the only one he's won is Ohio, he continues to siphon away votes that may have gone, in the case of Florida, to Marco Rubio, in the case tomorrow in Wisconsin, possibly to Ted Cruz or to Donald Trump, both of them suggesting that he's taking away from them. It happened in southern states as well and a few other Midwestern states. And the problem is he's not accruing as many delegates as these other guys. In some cases, he's being shut out entirely. So they're saying, why are you there? Why are you crowding the field at a time when clearly there's really only two guys potentially eligible to even be considered on the floor of the convention if the current rules hold? You should get out. The Kasich team turns around and says, look, we realize we may not be first choice, but look at those general election polls that continue to show us even or ahead of Hillary Clinton, unlike Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. You have to at least, as the Zac Brown band might sing, keep me in mind if you go into a second or a third round of voting at the convention. He's also keeping an eye on about a dozen states that he visited back in 2014 and 2015 before he started running for president to push for a balanced budget amendment. He had done some events in several different states: North Dakota, South Dakota, Arizona, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Carolina, all of them with Republican delegations that have varying rules that might, in a later round of voting at a convention, allow them to switch their allegiance to him. So for Kasich, he says, I got no reason necessarily to get out, and if I'm spoiling it for one of the other guys, it's only because people realize I might be a more viable alternative.
And as he said, he is certainly of the belief that those rules will be rewritten before Cleveland. Ed O'Keefe, Steve Chaggaris, we appreciate the time this morning.
Thanks.